Vagabond is a very popular manga that was written by Takehiko Inoue, and I recently read all of it, all of the 327 chapters that are currently out, and I gotta say, it's quite profound. I hate saying that word because I just think of a snobby little philosophy student every time I say it, just like a little pop in my mouth and everything. Yes, quite profound. But it really is. It's really a special manga, and there isn't anything else out there like it. And in this video, I'm going to attempt to go over the philosophy behind the manga, as well as just kind of sum it up and talk about the story as a whole. Don't expect anything crazy because I'm not very knowledgeable on philosophy. I just like to talk to a camera alone in my bedroom like a crazy person, so let's go ahead and hop into this. So the story of Vagabond, it all revolves around one character, and that character is Takezo, who in the future becomes Miyamoto Musashi, but really the story does a great job of exploring and expanding every single character it introduces. I don't remember most of their names because they are Japanese names, and I'm not Japanese, obviously. I know a tiny bit, but regardless, the characters themselves are very memorable because in most mangas, how it goes is they'll introduce these side characters as just, sorry, my throat is like, I got a frog stuck in it or something. Alright, I coughed that toad up. But anyways, as I was saying, in most mangas and animes, they have side characters that are just stepping stones for the main character to level up or develop on their journey and become closer to their end goal of becoming like the most powerful being in the universe. And that takes me to my next point, is that Takezo's main goal, his end point of his life, at the beginning of the story at least, is that he wanted to become invincible under the sun. He wanted to be the strongest, most unquestionable, best samurai in the entire world. He wanted to have no rivals and just be completely invincible. And he actually had a friend that grew up with him that also had the very same end goal. His name was Matahachi, but they ended up having very drastic life paths because Matahachi, his life was full of just being a loser, having a lot of failures, even identity theft. He stole someone's identity at some point. And it was just the life of a big loser and a failure who just never would amount to anything. And Takezo, or Musashi is what I'm going to call him for the rest of this video, his life was full of battles, adversity, overcoming those challenges, and actually leveling up, getting stronger, developing his strength in battle, as well as developing his wisdom and his mind and how he perceives the world. He just went on this true warrior's journey, and by the end of it, he ended up achieving his end goal. He became invincible under the sun. Everybody around the world knew the name Miyamoto Musashi, and they wanted to have a jab at taking the title of becoming invincible under the sun. But at that point, Musashi just wasn't interested. He achieved what he'd set out to achieve all those years ago, the only thing he cared about, becoming the strongest. And now that he really just found that it wasn't as fulfilling as he thought it would be. Which then leads him to go on this whole little Farmville side quest where he starts trying to farm and whatnot. Anyways, I want to skip past all that now that I gave you a little summary and say one of my favorite quotes in this entire manga. It's from the priest. His name is Takuan. He's the one that's kind of with Takezo or Musashi in his younger years, and he ties him up to a tree and everything. Anyways, Takuan says what is easily the best quote in this entire manga. He says, "Preoccupied with a single leaf, you won't see the tree. Preoccupied with a single tree, you'll miss the entire forest." And by the way, these characters in this manga are based on real world people. So like Takuan, I think it's Takuan Soho, that's based on a real dude. And then Miyamoto Musashi is also based on a real dude by the same name, who you probably know wrote the Book of Five Rings. So this is like a historical fiction. It's somewhat based on history, but most of it is fiction. Although this quote right here, I do believe, is an actual quote from the real Takuan Soho. Anyways, that quote is just beautiful. I think it sums up mindfulness and being mindful exactly. And then after he says that quote, he kind of sums it up to give you a better understanding of what it really means. He says, "Don't be preoccupied with a single spot. See everything in its entirety effortlessly." That is what it means to truly see. And that right there is just some beautiful letters lined up in a way that sounds beautiful coming out of your mouth. It really makes you sound like you know what you're talking about if you were to say that to somebody. They would actually think you're very smart and very wise. But now to kind of give you a summary of the story as a whole, how I feel, I wrote a couple things down about it. I just think that the philosophy in this manga, it's about the search for one's true self. And obviously the search is coming by means of Miyamoto Musashi, who is this vagabond, which basically just means a wandering samurai, who is just constantly walking around trying to find his place in the world. And it's through these travels that Musashi meets a variety of different people that all teach him individually different things that he carries with him, leading up to the final, the crescendo of him being at the peak of his power and the pinnacle of what he can accomplish. And he carries these lessons with him, and it always calls back to those moments to where they're actually impactful and you understand that they happened for a reason. Everything that developed Musashi was there for a very particular reason. And this is all leading up to his path of enlightenment through self-acceptance and self-love. Because there is an ending, an official ending to this story that the author wrote. It's not an official chapter. I forget what it's called. He wrote a little epilogue of the manga. He drew it and whatnot of Musashi like years and years in the future when he's an old man. It kind of skips over everything from where the manga left off to the main end. And it is a really good ending. I really do enjoy it. I'm not going to really talk about it, so if you want to read that, if you've read the manga and you haven't heard about the ending, do go read it, because it definitely is a satisfying ending, and it gives you that closure that the manga kind of left off on. And then towards the end of the story, before the manga goes on the hiatus, we meet this character. His name is, what is his name? I seriously just forgot it. Kojiro. And he is leading up to be the next big opponent for Musashi. These two are undoubtedly the best swordsmen in the entire Vagabond universe. Kojiro is a deaf mute. He can't hear, he can't speak, but he is insanely gifted with the sword, and he acts very childish. He's described as having like woman-like face, but acting like a child, but being insanely deadly with the sword, having pretty much no rivals whatsoever. And then of course you have Miyamoto Musashi, who is said to be invincible under the sun and the best swordsman out there. And these two were slowly starting to come together. Their journeys were starting to cross. They met once before at some random little house thing. It wasn't anything special, but it introduced the two characters to each other. And then it was once again leading up to them coming back together and having a little match, a little duel. But the authors, it doesn't really look like he intends to come back, because it's been on hiatus for like 5 years now, which is sad. I was really looking forward to that. It was leading up to be probably one of the best fights in the entire manga. But I understand, like I said, that one ending thing kind of wraps everything up nice. Anyways, this video's been all over the place. I wanted to show you the little deluxe edition, the first deluxe edition of Vagabond that I have. These things are like, what, $20 a pop. So they're quite expensive to collect. There's like 15 of them or something. But the art is very nice. I also didn't mention the love interest Otsu, but I'm not going to get into the whole story here. If I did, it would end up being a video longer than a feature-length film, and nobody can bear to hear my voice or see my face for that long. So I think I'm just going to wrap it up here. I really just wanted to rant and ramble. This was not planned out whatsoever, if it wasn't obvious already. Just some random dude with a weird country accent talking to a camera alone in his room with his cat off to the side here, asleep on the perch, as you can see. So yeah, that's going to do it. Catch you in the next one.